Assalamu alaikum. This is lecture number 27 of Global Business Management. Today the topic of lecture is Global Human Resource Management. We have three learning objectives for today's lecture. The first one is to understand the strategic role of human resource management in the international business. The second one is identify the pros and cons of different approaches to staffing policy in the international business. And the third learning objective is to understand why managers may fail to thrive in foreign postings. Okay, first we are going to do the quick recap of the last lecture. We had discussed the three factors which were important in making the location decisions. First factor was the country factor, and the second one was technological factors, and the third category was product factors. And three characteristics of the manufacturing technology, if we talk about the technological factors, the level of fixed cost, the minimum efficient scale. What's the minimum efficient scale? We had discussed the minimum efficient scale is defined as the lowest production point at which long-run total average costs are minimized of a plant, and more likely centralized production in a single location or limited number of locations makes sense. Minimum efficient scale mean at point where average long-run total average cost are minimized. The minimum point where long-run total average cost is minimized, at that number of production, that number of products is called minimum efficient scale. And the third factor which is important for determining the location of the international business is the flexibility of the technology. Flexibility of the technology is a systematic method for elimination of waste within the manufacturing process. The lean also take place into the account waste created through the overburden and waste created through unevenness in the workload. Essentially, lean is centered on making obvious what adds value by reducing everything else. Firms using flexible manufacturing technology can produce a widely variety of end product at a unit cost that at one time could only be achieved through mass production of a standardized product. Then we had discussed about the mass customization, which is the production of personalized or custom tailored goods or services to meet the customer drive to change need of a near mass product, producing customized products at the mass level. That's it, to minimize the cost of customized products. And the next one was the technological factor. Concentrating production at a few choice locations makes sense when now we are talking about on the basis of technological factor in what scenarios firm should prefer to do the concentrated location, concentrated production. Concentrated production mean producing in one market and supplying the product from that market to the other region, in the same region, in the other markets. While dispersed production or dispersed production where production of the product will be carried out in each market separately according to the needs of the customers. Concentration production at a few choice location makes sense when fixed costs are substantial. If the fixed cost, if a company need big capital, a huge capital to start to install a production unit, and that means the fixed cost is really high. In that case, it's preferable for the firm to have a concentrated production. Next one is the minimum efficient scale of production is high. When the minimum efficient scale of production is high, that minimum efficient scale of production is high. When minimum efficient scale of production is high, then firm should choose the concentrated production. And the last one is flexible manufacturing technologies. When there are a lot of flexible manufacturing technologies available where waste can be eliminated and through which the quality of the product can be improved, in that case firms should follow the concentrated production. Two important factors are really important in location decision: the product's value to weight ratios, and does product serve universal need. The first one is the value to weight ratio. Value to weight ratio means what is the value of the product. Like we had discussed the example of carbon, like coal and diamond. Both of these products are the derivatives of the carbon. But if we see the value of both products, is really entirely different. Value of coal is really low compared to the value of the diamond, and the weight is in the similar way, it goes for the weight. And if we compare the value can be measured in terms of price. We can say the price to weight ratio. And the second factor is the product serves universal need. Does this product is standardized and meeting the needs of the customer in all the markets? Is it a standard product? When products serve universal needs and the need for the local responsiveness fall. When the product's value to weight ratio is really high, like diamond, then they can produce the decentralized production. Otherwise, if the value to weight ratio is really low, then they can use the concentrated production. On the other hand, the do product serve universally. If the products meets the universal needs, then firms can produce the products in local responsiveness. Then if the products meets the need of the entire markets, it's a standardized product, then they don't need to produce their products in each market. They don't need to follow the decentralized production. What they have to do, they have to follow the concentrated production. Okay, there are two basic strategies for locating manufacturing facilities. The first one, concentrating them in optimal location and serving the world market from there. This is the first thing. Like we are talking about the decentralized production. They are going to produce. This is the centralized production, where firms are going to produce the products in one market and then export those products from there, and decentralize them in various region and national location that are close to the major markets. Improvement in the facility comes from two sources. The first one is the pressure to lower costs or respond to local markets, and the second one is an increase in the availability of the advanced factors of production. A major aspect of the transnational strategy is a belief in global learning, or idea that valuable knowledge does not reside just in the firm's domestic operation. It may also be found in its foreign subsidiaries. This statement indicates that firms can gain the valuable knowledge or valuable skills from their foreign subsidiaries as well. It's not necessary for firm to gain the knowledge from the parent firm, and especially when the foreign subsidiaries are operating in the developing countries and that firm belongs to the developed country. It's again this statement really is really important for those firms. Its presumption is like this, that considering that firm belong to a developed country and operating in the developing countries, it's not possible for foreign subsidiaries to have some more knowledge as compared to the headquarter. But it's not true. The truth is, firms can get the knowledge from their market, from the skills from that market, market-oriented skills, and that skill can be transferred back to the headquarter or that transfer to the other subsidiaries. Another decision that firm has to make in the foreign market when they are doing the global production is the make or buy. Firm have the choice: either they can make the product by themselves, or they can buy the products they can outsource and buy the product from the other entities. What are the advantages of making? Advantages of making includes a lower cost, facilitate investments in highly specialized assets, protect priority technology, facilitate the scheduling of adjacent processes. Okay, let's start talking about the international global human resource management. In human resource management, you guys have done this course in the first or second semester of human resource management. The difference between that human resource management that you have done and this is in this chapter, we are talking about the international human resource management, because firm is operating in the several markets and the human resource is really diverse, and firm have to manage the diversity in human resource management, and firm has to meet the demands of the local market and meet the demand through the human capital. In that perspective, firms have to adopt the different staffing, performance evaluation, compensation, labor relation, human resource strategy. These things should be different across the market, and firm has to deal these different strategies regarding human resource management in each market in different ways. So the things that you have studied in the earlier semester, that was purely based for the firms, purely based in the domestic market. Human resource management activities an organization carry out to utilize the human resource effectively. These activities include determining human resource strategy, staffing, performance evaluation, management development, compensation, and labor relations. These are the 6 elements that firm has to deal with when they are talking about, when they are making the human resource strategy in the international market. Considering in international market, each market has its own characteristics, and because of those market features, firms these human resource strategy can be different across the markets. Firms needs to ensure there is a fit between their human resource practices and strategy. Human resource, what is the strategic role of human resource management in international firms? Human resource management can help the firm reduce the cost of value creation and add value by better serving customer needs. Okay, we had discussed this thing that firms can create the value through human resource or through other strategies, marketing or production or supply chain, and this is another element. Firm can create the human resource, create the firm value through human resource management, or what they can do, they can reduce the cost of creating firm value through efficient human resource management. More complex in international business. I mean, it's human resource management is more complex issue in international business, because they are dealing with the different market, because difference between the countries and labor markets, culture, legal system, economic system, and so on. These are the huge differences across the markets. In terms of labor market, availability of labor, very famous thing is in Korea and in Japan, the number of or the supply of engineering laborers or technical labor is really high compared to the management or marketing labor. And on the other hand, if we talk about the culture, we can see a huge difference, substantial difference across the cultures in different countries, in different markets, in terms of people attitude towards work, towards which this culture makes the business environment. Then there is a legal systems. Legal system in how they are going to deal with the labor laws, employees laws, human resource laws. These are the different laws across the markets. And the economic system. And economic system is, of course, they're a very important factor. It differ across the countries. In economic system, it also the factor which is the development level. In countries where the development level is really high, in those markets the human resource management can be different compared to the countries where the economic system is not so developed. Human resource management must also determine when to use the expatriate managers. Expatriate managers mean people from abroad, from how and when they are going to use the foreigners as a managers. Citizens of one country working abroad are the expatriate who should be sent on foreign assignments. They can be how they should be compensated. These are the different issues the firm have to deal with. International firm they have to deal with when they are talking about international human resource management, and especially they are going to talk about and they have to deal with the sending and deployment of the expatriate managers. In expatriate manager they will deal regarding the expatriate manager. They're going to deal who should be sent to the foreign assignment. First of all, the choice of those expatriate managers, how they should be compensated, and what sort of compensation package they should be given to them, how they should be trained. The third thing is the training, how and what level of training they should be provided to the expatriate managers, how they should be reoriented when they return home, when they get back, how they should be in touch with the firm back again. Okay, what is the strategic role of HRM in international firms? The role of HR in shaping the organizational structure is given in the graphical form. In this figure, it shows that it's a circular process which include the processes, structures, people, culture, incentives and controls. In all these points are interrelated with each other, and the middle one is the people, culture, and the incentive and controls are related to human resource management. Human resources is responsible for these aspects of organizational structure. Incentive and controls, people and culture, these three elements belongs to the HRM. As shown in the figure, people are in the linchpin of the firm's organization architecture. They are main thing of the firm, main constituent of the organization. For a firm to outperform its rivals in the global marketplace, it must have the right people in the right postings. Those people must be trained appropriately so that they have the skills set required to perform their jobs effectively, and so that they behave in a manner that is congruent with the desired culture of the firm. Their compensation package must be create incentive for them to take action that are consistent with the strategy of the firm, and the performance appraisal system the firm uses must measure the behavior that the firm wants to encourage. These are the different elements of the HRM where firm has to see when they are providing the training, when they are providing the compensation, when they are doing the performance appraisal. These are the things through which the companies control and companies shape the behavior of the employees. As indicated, the human resource function through its staffing, training, compensation and performance appraisal activities has a critical impact on the people, culture, incentive and the control system elements of the firm's organization structure. Thus, human resource professionals have a critically important strategic role. These two paragraphs are showing and indicating the importance of human resource professionals. Okay, this is the initial case study of one Chinese, US and Chinese joint venture, and here in this case study they are talking about how a firm is struggling with the international human resource management. It's really interesting case study. This is in fact the opening case study of this chapter, and it's the main point of this case study is like it had been a very bad morning for the John Ross, the general manager of the multinational company Chinese joint venture. He had just got off the phone with his boss in St. Louis, Phil Smith, who was demanding to know why the joint venture's return on investment was still in the low single digits 4 years after Ross has taken over the top post in the operation. "We had expected much better performance by now," said Smith. "Particularly given your record of achievement, you need to fix this, Phil. Our patience is not infinite. You know the corporate goal is for a 20% return on investment for operating units, and your unit is not even close to that. Ross had a very bad feeling that Smith had just fired a warning shot across his bow. There was an implicit threat underlying Smith's demand for improved performance. For the first time in the 20 years of career at multinational companies, Ross felt that his job was on the line. Multinational company, this was a US-based multinational electronics. This is the name of this MMC. It was a US-based multinational electronics enterprise with the sales of $2 billion and operations in more than 10 countries. MMC China specialized in the mass production of printed circuit boards for companies in the cell phone and computer industries. MMC was a joint venture with the Shanghai Electronic Corporation, a former state-owned enterprise that held 49% of the joint venture equity. MMC held the rest. While MMC held a majority of the equity, the company had to consult with the partner before making major investment or changing employment behavior. John Ross had been running the MMC China for the past 4 years. He had arrived at MMC China for a very successful career at MMC, which included expanded posting in the Mexico and Hungary. When he took the China position, Ross thought that if he succeeded, he would probably be in the line for one of the top jobs at the corporate headquarters within a few years. Ross had known that he was talking on the challenge with MMC. He is taking on the challenge with MMC China, but nothing prepared him for what he would find there. The joint venture was a mess. Operations were horribly inefficient. Despite low wages, productivity was being killed by poor product quality, tax inventory controls, and the high employee turnover. The venture probably employed too many people, but MMC's China partners seemed to view the venture as a job creation program, and repeatedly objected to any plans for cutting the workflows. To make matter worse, MMC China had failed to keep up with the test development in manufacturing technology. It was falling behind competitors. Ross was determined to change this, but it had not been easy. Main important thing in these two paragraphs is saying that Ross was the CEO of the MMC MMC joint venture in China, and he has a really successful track of record. And when he was he served in the Mexico and Hungary of MMC subsidiaries, and at that time he was really successful, and he thought he can run this MMC China as well. The background of the joint venture is that it's a 49% of that joint venture is owned by the Chinese firm, and the remaining 51% is owned by the MMC. And despite that, it looked like that the Chinese partner is taking or considering this opportunity, this firm, as a job creating place for the Chinese people, and they rejected the many proposals which included the job cutting agenda, and that's why the performance or overall return on investment of this MMC China is very low, and Ross got the sort of a threat or warning from his boss from the headquarters. To improve operations, Ross had put in a request to corporate HR for 2 specialists from the United States to work with the Chinese production employees. Now what this Ross intend to do is to change the human resource strategy to improve the production, to improve the return on investment. The Ross is going to focus on human resource management. How he is going to do that? Let's read it. He had lost it 3 months before requesting a transfer home for personal reasons. Okay, the 2 specialists from the United States to work with the Chinese production employees, it had been a disaster. One had lasted 3 months before requesting a transfer at home for personal reason. Apparently his spouse hated China. The other had stayed for a year, but he had interacted so poorly with the local Chinese employees that he had to be sent back to the United States. Ross wished that MMC's corporate HR department had done a better job of selecting and then training these employees for difficult foreign posting, but in the retrospect he had to admit that he was not surprised at the lack of culture training. He had never been given any. Okay, in the first paragraph, in this one, what he is saying, he was pointing out that despite he brought 2 HR specialists to improve the human resource productivity, and in order to do so, the 2 expatriates were working there in China in this MMC. The headquarters sent 2 Americans to Chinese MMC, this joint venture, to improve the human resource strategy. But the one left very early because of the personal reason, and the second one he couldn't interact, and he interacted very poorly with the Chinese employees. It looked like that both of them didn't have the cultural training before going to China, and Ross is admitting this thing. After this failure, Ross had taken a different track. He had picked 4 of his best Chinese production employees and sent them to MMC US operations, along with a translator, for a 2-month training program focusing on the latest production technique. He had worked out much better. The Chinese had visited efficient MMC factories in the United States, Mexico, Brazil, and had seen what was possible. They had returned home fired up to improve operation at the MMC China. Within a year, they had introduced a 6 Sigma quality control program and improved the flow of inventory through MMC factory. Ross could now walk through the factory without being appalled by the sight of a large quantities of inventory stocked on the floor, or bins full of discarded circuit boards that had failed post-assembly quality tests. Productivity had improved as a result, and after 3 tough years, MMC China had finally turned a profit. Rather than what Ross did, that rather than bringing the people from the headquarters to the China, what they did, he sent 4 people, selected the production employees from the Chinese MMC, and sent those guys to the USA and the Brazil and the Mexico to learn the most efficient technology in those production units. And when these guys came back, they introduced the 6 Sigma to quantify and control program to improve the productivity, to improve the quality of the products. And within the 3 years, the output increased, and the MMC China started to produce the profit. Apparently, this was not good enough for corporate headquarters. Ross knew that improving performance further would be tough. The market in China was very competitive. MMC was vying with the many other enterprises to produce printed circuit boards for large multinational customers that had assembly operations in China. The customers were constantly demanding lower prices, and it seemed to Ross that prices were falling almost as fast as MMC cost. Also, Ross was limited in the ability to cut the workforce by the demands of his Chinese joint venture partner. Ross had tried to explain all of this to Phil Smith, but Smith did not seem to get it. The man is just a number cruncher, thought Ross. He has no sense of the market in China. He has no idea how hard it is to do business here. I have worked damn hard to turn this operation around, and I am getting no credit for it. None at all. Okay, this is the whole case study. In the last paragraph there, he is talking about the Ross. Despite the Ross increase the performance of this company, the boss of Ross still wants to improve the more return on investment, and he was demanding more. And in Ross' opinion, that guy is not fair. He is not considering the cultural difference and the difficulty of the Chinese market, where the competition is really high, and the problem is they cannot reduce the cost by cutting down the number of employees because of his Chinese partner. These were some certain constraints that the Ross is facing in Chinese market, and despite these constraints, he successfully improved the performance. But however, the boss is not acknowledging the effort of Ross and not giving any credit. Okay, what is the staffing policy? Now we can see how firm can staff or employ in the foreign market. Staffing policy is concerned with the selection of employees who have the skills required to perform a particular job. Like we have discussed this in this case study, the Ross. In the beginning, he asked for the two guys from the US, from the expatriate, and they came to the Chinese market without any training. First of all, those guys were not might be eligible for that post because they were not aware of the Chinese culture, and one of them had the personal issues, and the second one couldn't interact properly with the Chinese employees. In that case, we can say that a selection of employees who are going to serve somewhere or who are going to assign certain tasks is really important thing. Can be a total. Okay, the first one can be a tool for developing and promoting the firm's corporate culture, the organizational norms and values and system. These are the organizational culture. A strong corporate culture can help the firm implement its strategy. Okay, there is what he is talking about. There is a close relationship between the culture and the corporate strategy. When organizational culture means the norms, values, what they have, can be okay. The staffing, what sort of employees you are going to hire, this contribute to the forming the culture of the organization, and which ultimately affect the implementation of the organizational strategy. Three main approaches to staffing policy. Okay, there are three main approaches to hire the people. The first one is ethnocentric approach, in which fill key management position with parent country nationals. Ethnocentric approach. For instance, just take this example, like if we continue talking about this Ross MMC, headquartered is in USA, and they are operating in China. In ethnocentric approach, most of the key management position will be filled from the US citizens. The polycentric approach recruits host country nationals to manage subsidiaries in their own country and parent country nationals for position at headquarters. If we follow the polycentric approach, that MMC which is operating in China will be managed by the Chinese people because they know the culture and local market condition and these things. Okay, the third one is the geocentric approach. Geocentric approach seek the best people regardless of the nationality of key job. Okay, geocentric approach means they can hire the people from all over the globe, and whoever meets the required criteria, whoever got the best traits which are required for performing that job. Okay, what are the benefits of the ethnocentric staffing policy? Firms that pursue an ethnocentric policy believe that there is a lack of qualified individuals in the host country to fill senior management positions. Okay, if the ethnocentric policy in which people are going to be hired from the USA, in that case they are claiming why they should follow ethnocentric, because there is a possibility that people, more skilled people which are required for that post, are not available from the Chinese market. We are talking about the same example, that's why we are talking about the Chinese and the US market. It is the best way to maintain a unified corporate culture. If they want to have the similar culture in USA and in the Chinese MMC subsidiary, they can have the people, they can bring the people from the USA to implement, to propose and then implement the same culture what they have in the US headquarters. Value can be created by transferring core competencies to a foreign operation via parent country national. Okay, by sending the people from the headquarters, they can even, what they are doing, they are transferring the value and they are creating the value by core competency, by transferring the core competency to a foreign operation. Mean by sending the parent country national, people who are working, who worked in the United States, they can create the value, they are skilled and they are trained in the highest place in the headquarters, and they what they can do, they can go to the other foreign subsidiary and other countries and create the value for the company. It also makes sense with the international strategy. When the firm have the international operations and the really diverse operation across the globe, then the strategy works really good to have the control over the firm's operation. But on the other side, if we talk about the disadvantages with the ethnocentric staffing, it limits advancement opportunities for the host country nationals. If you are going to hire all the main people from the USA, then what will be the opportunity to advance in the management ladder for the Chinese people? There will be less opportunity, and they are going to this perception that, and they are going to know this thing, and they are going to might be this, according to the signaling theory, this is a bad signal for the company, that firm is only hiring from their home country. They are not hiring from the host country. It can lead to cultural myopia. It can lead to, the second point is when they're going to hire from the same US people, and they are trying to have the same culture what they have in the headquarters. It's a cultural myopia. Same culture all over the world. Why choose a polycentric staffing policy? The polycentric approach makes sense for firms pursuing a localization strategy. Polycentric approach when Chinese people will be hired for the Chinese subsidiary, and it makes sense when the firm is a decentralized production. They have the decentralized and they are focusing on the localization strategy. They want to meet the demand of the market with the demand of the local taste and values and traditions of the local people, and they are producing the different products across the markets. At that time, the polycentric approach is really better. The second thing is minimize cultural myopia. Obvious one, may be less expensive to implement than an ethnocentric policy, because when they are going to implement, they are going to hire the Chinese people, it will be less costly for the company, because it's a local person and local currency, and the pays will be in the local amount. And of course, when you are talking about such countries and the differences across the countries, like in US and Chinese, the wage rate will be different for the Chinese managers and US managers, and it will be less costly for the firm to hire the Chinese manager under the polycentric approach. Okay, what is the negative thing? There are two negative things associated with the polycentric approach. The first one is the host country nationals have limited opportunity to gain the experience outside their home country, and so cannot progress beyond the senior position in their own subsidiary. What you say about if the company is following the polycentric approach under which they are only hiring the Chinese managers in MMC China? The negative thing with this approach is there will be very less opportunity or no opportunity for the US managers to learn this culture of Chinese values of Chinese market, and there will be less opportunities or limited opportunities to gain experience while serving in the foreign markets. A gap can be formed between the host country managers and the parent country manager. Okay, this is obvious that when the headquarter is based on the US multinational US managers, and in Chinese subsidiary the management is based on purely on Chinese managers, there can be a cultural difference between the host country and the parent country, and that can be really harmful for the company. Next one is the geocentric approach. From wherever they get the good people, they're going to hire them, irrespective of they are from the host or local country. It's consistent with building a strong unifying culture and informal management network. This is the first advantage with the geocentric approach. It makes sense for firms pursuing a global and transnational strategy and enable the firms to make the best use of the human resource. Builds a cadre of international executives who feel at home working in a number of different cultures. When they have people from different countries, they are going to diverse culture and have the informal management network. And the second thing is it's more feasible when the firm is pursuing a global or transnational strategy. When firm is operating in the international market, and people, they have to meet the demand of the people from the culturally different market. They should have the diverse management and best use of, and in that case they can have the best and optimal human resources. And the last one is cadre of international executives. Builds a cadre of, is a bunch of a group of international executives, because that company is providing the opportunity of experience of international market to those people. But there are two disadvantages associated with the geocentric approach. The first one is can be limited by immigration laws. When we are talking about geocentric approach, there is a possibility that you cannot hire the people from all over the world, because there are some immigration laws and limitation of immigration laws, and because of those laws it will be difficult for hire from other countries. It's costly to implement, because you are bringing the best people for that position. Best people mean, of course, demand the higher wages, higher compensation, which is costly for implementation to the firm. Okay, staffing approach. This is the comparison of staffing approach. The first one is ethnocentric approach. It is a strategic appropriateness for when the firm is operating in the international strategy, and they are operating as a international, and there are advantages and disadvantages associated with each staffing approach. The first one is overcomes the lack of qualified managers in host country. Unified culture helps transfer core competencies. These are the advantages associated with the ethnocentric when we are bringing all the people from the USA. And the disadvantage is the product produces resentment in the host country, and it's a sort of some negative feeling for the company that they are not hiring from us, they are bringing people from their home country. This sort of negative feeling can be created because of the ethnocentric strategy. The second one is can lead to cultural myopia. This is the second objective. Polycentric. Under the second approach, the strategic appropriateness is the localization. In localization, when the firm is having a localization strategic approach, there are advantages associated with it elevates cultural myopia and the inexpensive to implementation, because they are only the local people. and limits career mobility, isolates headquarters from the foreign subsidiary. And limits career mobility mean people, when they are people only they are hiring the people from only the for the host market, from the Chinese market. There is less possibility for the companies for the employees or managers who are working in the USA to move to the Chinese market, which shows the limited access career mobility. Isolated headquarters from, okay, headquarters will have a US culture and the subsidiary have the Chinese culture, and there will be a difference and there should be isolation across the headquarters and the subsidiaries. Geocentric, the right approach is global standardization and transnational. When firm is operating across the globe and they are trying to follow the standardization of products, then the users human resource efficiently in that case, and they are trying to bring the people which are most suitable for the position. It is most human resources is handled more efficiently. This is the first advantage. The second one is helps build strong cultural and informal management networks. And what are the disadvantages? National immigration policies may limit implementation. This is the fact, because of the immigration laws, there is not possible to bring the people, to hire the people from across the globe. And the second one is expensive, because you are bringing the best people across the globe, irrespective of their nationality. Of course, they are going to demand high compensation. Firms using an ethnocentric or geocentric staffing strategy will have expatriate managers. Expatriate manager means bringing the people from the other countries, and ethnocentric mean when they are bringing the people from the host country to the home country to the host country, and the geocentric is the third one, where they are hiring the best, most suitable people. In both strategies, they are bringing the foreigners. And expatriate failure is the premature return, when those people are going back their home before their finishing of their term. This is the call expatriate failure. That can be the possible in very different reason. Like in the case study we have seen, because of the family reasons. Each expatriate failure can cost between 40,000 and 1 million. Between 16 and 40% of all American expatriates in developed countries fail, and almost 70% of Americans assigned to developing countries fail. Wow, this is a really huge number, especially when they go to the number is between 16 to 40% when Americans are going to the other developed countries, especially in the EU. And this percentage is up to the 70% when these American people are going to the remaining developing countries. Okay, recall rate percent: US multinationals 20 to 40%, of companies 7%, 10 to 20% is 69%, and similar goes for the. Now we are talking about the expatriate rate failure for the US multinationals and the EU multinationals and the Japanese multinationals. And the European multinationals were 11 to 15%, which is the percent of companies are 3%, and 59% people, 59% of the companies have failure rate is less than 5%. Similarly, 76% of the companies have the failure rate of less than 5% for the Japanese. Failure rate is really less, very high for US multinationals. Okay, this is a quick case study of the managing expatriate, how Royal Dutch Shell company is managing the expatriates. This is the case study about this small thing. Royal Dutch Shell is the global petroleum company with the joint headquarters in both the London and the Hague in the Netherlands. The company employs more than 100,000 people, approximately 5,500 of whom are at any one-time living and working as expatriates. The expatriates at Shell are a diverse group made up of over 70 multinational nationalities and located in more than 100 companies. More than 100 countries. Shell, as a global corporation, has long recognized that the international mobility of its workforce is essential to its success. By the 90s, however, Shell was finding it harder to recruit key personnel for the foreign positions. To discover why, the company interviewed more than 200 expatriate employees and their spouses to determine their biggest concerns. The data were then used to construct a survey that was sent to the 17,000 current and former expatriate employees, expatriate spouses, and employees who had declined international assignments. The survey registered a phenomenal 70% response rate, clearly indicating that many employees thought this was an important issue. According to the survey, 5 issues had the greatest impact on the willingness of the employees to accept an international assignment in order of importance. Otherwise, these were: the first one is the separation from the children during their secondary education. The children of the British and the Dutch expatriate were often sent to the boarding school in their home countries while their parents worked abroad. This is the most important reason. The second one is harm done to the spouse's career and employment. The third one is failure to recognize and involve a spouse in the relocation decision. The fourth one is the failure to provide adequate information and assistance regarding the location. And the fifth one is health issues. These are the 5 most important issues of the expatriate when they were asked in the survey. The underlying message was that the family is the basic unit of expatriation, not the individualism, and Shell needed to do more to recognize this. To deal with these issues, Shell implemented a number of programs designed to address some of these problems. To help with the education of children, Shell built elementary school for the Shell employees where there was a heavy concentration of expatriates. As for secondary school education, it worked with local schools after providing grants to help them upgrade their education offering. It also offered an educational supplement to help expatriates send their children to private schools in the host country. Helping spouses with their career is a vexing problem. According to the survey data, half of the spouses accompanying Shell staff on the assignment were employed until the transfer. When expatriated, only 12% were able to secure employment, while a further 33% wished to be employed. Shell set up a spouse employment center to address the problem. The center provides career counseling and assistance in locating employment opportunities both during and immediately after the international assignment. The company also agreed to reimburse up to 80% of the cost of vocational training, further education, or re-accreditation up to $4,400 per assignment. Shell also set up a global information and advice network known as the Outpost to provide the support for the families contemplating a foreign position. The Outpost has its headquarters in The Hague and now runs 40 information centers in more than 30 countries. The center recommends schools and meaningful facilities to provide the housing advice and up-to-date information on employment, study, self-employment, and the volunteer work. If we summarize this small story, this case study, is that Shell was facing this problem that their expatriate, there was a shortage of expatriates, and what they are doing, they conducted a survey and they found out 5 important reasons. The first one is the spouses, the school, separation from the school. The second one is to the harm to the spouse's job. The third one is failure to recognize the involvement of spouse. The fifth one is that educate information is not available, and the fifth one is health issues. And how the Dutch Shell did to manage those 5 issues. The first one, they tried to open the schools in those regions where the expatriates are really in the high concentration. Second one, when they were tried to provide the job to the spouses and to a greater extent, and they opened this outpost center, this which provides career counseling and this or other facilities to the expatriates and provide the information. These are the different steps that the Shell have taken to increase the or to reduce the expatriate failure within the company. Okay. The next point is, why do expatriate managers fail? There are several reasons. The main reason for U.S. expatriate failure are inability of the expatriate spouse to adopt, the manager's inability to adjust, other family-related reasons, the manager's personal or emotional maturity, the manager's inability to cope with the larger overseas responsibilities. These are the 5 different reasons which are the most common reasons of expatriate managers' failure. The reason for European expat failure is the inability of the manager's spouses to adjust. The main reason for the Japanese expatriate failures are inability to cope with the larger overseas responsibility, difficulty with the new environment, personal or emotional problems, the lack of technical competence, inability of the spouse to adjust. Now we can see the difference that for the Japanese one, inability of the spouse to adjust is the 5th element, while for the European expatriate, it's the biggest problem that the manager's spouses couldn't adjust in the new environment. How can firm reduce the expatriate failure? There are several steps, 4 dimensions that they can reduce through which if they work on, they can reduce the expatriate failure. 4 dimensions that predict the expatriate success are self-orientation, other orientation, and the perceptual ability and the cultural toughness. These are the 4 different dimensions on which the firms can work on, and through these 4 things, these 4 elements, the firm can reduce the expatriate failure through improved selection procedures. Why the global mindset is important? Global mindset, when they are selecting a people, why the global mindset is important? The global mindset may be the fundamental attribute of the global manager, which is cognitive complexity and the cosmopolitan outlook. A global mindset is often acquired early in life from a family that is bicultural, living in foreign countries, learning foreign language as a regular part of the family life. These are the 3 global mindset. From where they are going to get this mindset? There are 3 sources. If the family is bicultural, family lived in several countries, and if they have the different languages. What is the training and management development? In order to reduce the failure, expatriate failure, they provide, before sending those people, they should provide, the company should provide the training and orientation of the new culture. After selecting a manager for a position, training and development program should be implemented. Training focuses upon preparing the manager for a specific job. Management development is concerned with the developing the skills of the manager over time. Give the manager a skill set and reinforce the organization. Historically, most firms focus more on training than on management development. Training can reduce expatriate failure. Cultural training part, there are several parts of the training. Cultural training, language training, practical training, which involves the practical scenarios of the new environment. And now we are going to do the quick summary of the lecture. We had discussed about the human resource management, and within human resource management there are several steps involved, several processes, several things involved in international human resource management. The staffing policy is really important, and the 3 approaches of the staffing policy: the ethnocentric approach, polycentric approach, and the geocentric approach. And then we discuss about the expatriate, who are the expatriate and why they get fail, and what are the important reasons, and how and to what extent the training, what different sort of training and a global mindset is important for to reduce the expatriate managers failure. Thank you for today. Allah Hafiz.